Welcome back to another Queer Money Live. We are on episode 51 of the Queer Money follow-up series. Tomorrow will be 1 year. Not actually an entire year, but David decided after I already hit go to decide to fix our lighting.
Yeah, I forgot to turn the lights on. You know, it's starting to creep into spring, and so the days are getting longer, and we're not getting used to the more amount of light, so I forgot to turn the lights on before we got started here.
So today we're talking about social media, and we want to ask you, is your business on social media? And you may or may not have a business, but as you heard in the last couple of Queer Money follow-ups, we want to see more and more LGBTQ people become entrepreneurs, start their own full or part-time businesses, because for several reasons. One, it's an easier path to retirement. It helps build the cash flow for an ongoing wealthy life, but it also provides you a stronger voice, more influence, and increases your income stream, as well as maybe reduces your reliance on a W-2 or an employer who you may or may not like.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are starting to get a lot more comfortable with, this idea of having an additional side hustle or having another job as a way for them to increase their income, to do things like pay off student loan debt, pay off credit card debt, accumulate money for a down payment on a house, or to just in some way improve the financial state of their lives. And so there's a lot of different ways to do that. Some of them are kind of out of the box ways, things like driving Uber or Lyft, or delivering groceries through Instacart, or food through Grubhub or something like that. And then there are also basically the way of kind of creating your own brand, your own business. And that's kind of the direction we're encouraging more folks to go down, because the opportunity for increased income is much higher when you do it yourself, rather than when you're even doing one of these out of the box kind of businesses yourself.
Exactly. So if you want to hear more about our thoughts and opinions about why you too should become an entrepreneur, even part-time, watch episodes 48 of the Queer Money follow-up series. It's what we recorded on last Sunday, as well as episode 50, which is what we recorded yesterday. And that'll kind of give you all the ins and outs of why we think there need to be more gay entrepreneurs. But that said, so what's the next step, especially in today's environment, when you want to start building a business? Well, today more than ever, you've got to have a social media presence, even if it's on a singular platform. And maybe even today it's better to be on a singular platform, because trying to be everywhere is proving to be not beneficial for a lot of people. But you definitely need to have a social media presence.
Right. And I think that was one of the fallacies, or one of the major mistakes that we made in the beginning, is we felt like we needed to be on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all these different social media platforms, LinkedIn, Pinterest. There were just so many of them. I think I was, for a while,
Google
they were trying
Plus.
to put us on Google Plus, which is now gone. I was trying to put us on Flipboard, which hasn't really ever taken off. And it requires time and energy for all of that, right? Because each platform is basically different, right? The way that we connect with you here on YouTube is different than the way we would traditionally connect with people on Twitter or on Facebook. Granted, we can post the videos there, but the way that we connect is slightly different, which means you have to manage it slightly different.
And when we recorded episode 51 of the Queer Money podcast almost 5 years ago, that was titled 15 Social Media Tricks to Take Your Brand from Bland to Grand. The social media landscape was completely different than what it is today. And it's funny to think about some of the social media platforms, such as Google Plus, that were supposedly the next big thing, that proved to be completely to otherwise. And then now, today, we have all these additional restrictions because of what happened in the last couple of elections on social media, as well as new content or new platforms such as TikTok and new ways to use old platforms such as Instagram stories and Facebook stories. A lot more of these platforms are evolving into sort of the sort of quick content. And our suggestion at this point is, if you do decide to become an entrepreneur and you do want to have an online presence, we would, at this point, based on everything that we've learned and all the mistakes that we've made, we would highly suggest picking one, maybe at the most two platforms to get on, and figuring out how to really rock that singular platform before you decide to branch out into other platforms. And you might even find out that you don't want to branch out to other platforms.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting. You bring up this point of quick bites of information, right? Small bites of information. I remember we talked about this jokingly, that I think that the time in which men spend in the bathroom since cell phones have become popularized,
yeah.
right? Smartphones have become popularized, is longer and longer and longer, because men are not as frequently are they going in and standing in the stall and peeing. More often than not, they're going into the stall and they're sitting down and they are watching something on or reading something on their phone, and that's why they're in the bathroom for 6 or 8 minutes versus going to the urinal and peeing. Now, granted, this is a kind of a guy's look at social media, but I think that kind of can. We jokingly talked about, what was it? I can't remember the name of the toilet paper king or something like that, the person who basically created their whole platform with this idea of you were ruling the bathroom stall as the way of creating your social media presence. It's always, you're there for 2 to 5 minutes, and that's all of the time you're going to ever give to your audience when you go out there.
Right.
So,
and that could be all the more reason why you see things like shorter stories, as well as things like TikTok, which is, I still have not figured out how TikTok is different than Vine, but apparently TikTok's doing a better job, why content's slowly getting shorter. So in preparation for this particular live, we wanted to do a little bit of research and see what kind of trends, if we are encouraging you to go on social media, should you become an entrepreneur, what's new today that you might want to consider. And so we found, did some research online, as well as some trends that we're seeing on our own platforms as to what's on the horizon. And it does seem, serendipitously enough, that lives are going to become even more popular. So exactly what we're doing here on YouTube and Facebook, it's going to become more popular. People are looking for, and especially because of everybody's affinity, maybe not affinity, but everybody's comfortableness with Zoom, that this is becoming sort of a natural platform that not only are people connecting with others, but they're also receiving content. So if you are going to become an entrepreneur and you are trying to reach an audience, this is a way to do that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be super polished and slick like some of the videos of old.
right. Well, and we talked about this back then, but I think it's even more prevalent now that look at what's happening with TikTok. The vast majority of those videos are not these slick videos. They're 15-second videos where people are doing something that's entertaining. And I think that's a really good, important point to take into consideration when you're posting something on social media. Is there some aspect of it that is both entertaining and educational if you're doing this for your business, right? Because the whole reason you want to be on social media for your business is to attract the kinds of customers that your business can serve, right? So, if you're, let's just say, for example, if you're a massage therapist who wants to get local traffic, then you're going to create content that's going to be slightly different for your audience than, say, for example, if you're a digital product person, or maybe you're an artist and you've created art that you're selling from your website. All of those are quite different. And so you're going to want to interact with your audience differently. And sometimes those non-polished videos, those quick videos, are both entertaining, but they also can highlight how you can serve your customers.
Exactly. Then sticking sort of with that video theme, also it looks like, and we've noticed this with our own content, that stories, whether on FB or Facebook or on Instagram, are going to probably become even more popular. I think we're all kind of surprised at how popular stories have gotten. I personally, I don't like them for my personal feed, but they do seem to do a great job for our business.
Well, I think there's a lot of different ways that stories can be used. Some people use stories as a way of video broadcasting and actually telling a video type story. Some people use them as a way of a succession of educating somebody. So say, for example, you're doing something like the 5 ways to get out of debt, right? So then you would have 1, and then you would slide 2 is the second way, slide 3 is the third, and so forth. But there's a lot of different ways that stories can be used. One of the things that you want to be cautious about with stories is that you're connecting with your audience. A lot of the platforms don't necessarily allow you to draw your audience to your products unless you have a specific amount of subscribers. So I think, for example, with Instagram and an Instagram story, you have to have 10,000 followers before you can put a link in a story, that little swipe up button or swipe up, so that you can direct them to your product. It's really hard to engage with your audience and get them over to your product if you don't have something like that. So remember to look at the different ways that you have, the requirements that you have for each platform, as the way to get your audience to, or your customers to you, right? You don't want to just be out there on social media doing a bunch of stuff. You have a purpose, and that purpose is to get customers, right? If this is for your business, figure out or learn the strategies that are working that allow you to draw in your audience or your customers to you.
Exactly. So each platform sort of wants you to engage with your audience on its platform in a different way, other than maybe Google. If you think of it as a social media platform, I guess I could go either way on that. But then, as well as Pinterest, other than those two, all the other social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, or I'm sorry, not Pinterest, Instagram, they all want you to keep their audience, your audience, on their platform.
Right.
It doesn't help them for you to bounce people from Instagram to your blog, for example, or from Facebook to your sales page. They want you to keep people on their platform. So when you're creating content and you pick a particular platform to try to connect with an audience optimally, wherever your audience most likely is going to be, then you want to figure out, how do I engage with my audience on this particular platform the way that platform wants me to, and the way it keeps them on that platform, because you're fighting an uphill battle, as we've learned, trying to get an audience from a social media platform over to a platform of your own creation.
Right. Well, I think it's important to remember, right? All of these they're not charities, right? These are businesses, right? And so they are trying to make money, and if they're constantly sending people away from their way of making money, right, you wouldn't open up the doors to your store and sell somebody else's product and not expect to get a cut of it, right? So the same thing is happening with Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all these different platforms. They don't mind helping you get customers to your product or service. They just want a cut of it because they've opened up their doors. They have hundreds of thousands of, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of employees paying out billions of dollars in payroll every year. Right. And all of the technology, the massive amount of technology that they have to maintain so that we can get into scroll holes, right? So they have a business reason for doing what they're doing as well. So we have to pay attention to that.
Then the third trend that we're seeing, and this is a good trend, is that inclusivity matters. You need to show in your brand, however you represent your brand, you need to make sure that you're representing everybody. And we're seeing this in a great way in more and more stock photos. When David and I first started blogging and trying to connect with the LGBTQ community, it was hard to find same-sex couples or somebody who appeared gay. Everybody looked like the very stereotypical male or female model. Not that gays have a certain look, but it just looked very sanitized. But time has evolved, and we would start to see more lesbian couples or gay couples. But trying to see even broader diversification was somewhat hard. But now it seems it's even on platforms like Canva, stock photos are getting more and more inclusive of all different shapes, sizes, colors, genders, whatever of people.
Right. I think that there's still some major gaps, right? We were talking about this the other day, that when I was out searching for gay couples, it is extremely hard to find a picture of a gay couple where both individuals are black, right? It is extremely difficult to find a picture of gay couples where both individuals are Asian or Hispanic. There's lots of pictures out there of gay couples where they're either interracial. Interracial is a very big thing right now with stock photos, I'm noticing.
In commercials.
And in commercials, yeah. But the same race, with the exception of whites, with the same race of a same-sex couple, it's even worse when it comes to transgender folks. There's very few pictures, stock photos of transgender that aren't really poor judgment photos. I think there's a lot of photos that almost look comical, which I think they're a very poor attempt at looking at having something that's trans. It's not necessarily in the best light, and so we don't necessarily use those.
So it's almost like they have the intent or the heart behind trying to do it. They just didn't engage with a transgender person trying to figure out, does this actually connect or work?
Right, or support artists or photographers who are going out there and collecting photos or taking photos of trans and queer folk.
Yeah, it's like a white CEO saying we want inclusivity, and everybody on his board is white.
Yep, exactly.
The fourth trend that we're starting to see, and this is a little scary for us because I'm not exactly sure how we would get involved in it, but we had a long conversation about this with David's stepson the other day, that virtual reality is on the horizon. It's probably going to blow up. Yeah. And I don't know exactly how you weave personal finance into virtual reality.
Yeah.
I'm sure some brands are going to be able to knock it out of the ballpark.
Right. Well, I can see things like virtual classrooms, virtual settings for events. It seems to me to be probably that has the potential to be really good, where you would go into a studio that is able to record you in a almost a 3D environment that then someone could watch in that kind of 3D environment, where you're walking around a classroom, or you're walking around and putting things up on virtual boards, almost as if you're the teacher or instructor. I think that there's probably a lot of other things, say for example, fitness. I could see that one being really good because it has yoga. Yeah, it has that potential for 3D, which I think is a great way to take it from the 2D that we have here with YouTube to something that maybe people might be able to engage with a little bit more. So I think there's a lot of trends that are coming, and you have to, I guess, I would suggest have one foot in what is happening now with one foot in what is coming. You can't always be at the forefront of every of every single month. All these platforms are putting out updates, and they're putting out new. I mean, you just think about Facebook. I mean, all of the different things that Facebook has had used to be just a feed, and then they had business pages, and then now they have groups and lives and stories and shops and marketplace and all these different things that are there now. Well, that happens with all of the platforms. Don't try to keep up with every single one of them.
No, and I'll reiterate, going back to that original point. Definitely, you want to be on social media, regardless of what your business is or is going to be. But I would encourage you to choose one platform to start on, and try to choose the platform where your avatar, your ideal client is most likely going to be. While we're on Twitter and all sorts of other platforms, it seems that our target market is predominantly and most engagingly on Facebook. even with all the changes that Facebook has made, and as many people claim to bounce from Facebook to go somewhere else,
then you see them back a month later.
we still get a much higher engagement with our audience on Facebook. So figure out where your audience is most likely to be. Try to engage with that and become a rock star at that platform before you try to add all these different other platforms, and especially before you try to continue to always stay ahead of the curve, because that could just be pushing a boulder up a hill.
Right. Well, and I think one of the nice things about that, when you focus on one or maybe two, you get to focus on what it takes to be successful on that platform. And remember, confidence comes from building small successes over and over and over and over again. And as you gain the success on that one or those two platforms, you are going to gain some confidence in your abilities on that platform and your abilities of your business, right? And that's what's really important. As a business owner, if you cannot display your level of confidence in what you are doing, no one wants to purchase from you, right?
It makes me think of the first couple lives we tried to do. This 3 or 4 years ago, our first lives, we would get all nervous. We'd have to drink a glass of wine before we got on. And now today we're starting lives even before we're ready.
Right.
We're clearly comfortable. Whether or not it's good, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
So those are our suggestions for engaging with social media. If you are going to become an entrepreneur of any sort, we highly encourage you to please do so, because of all the myriad reasons we shared on yesterday's episode as well as Sunday's episode. So thank you for joining us for another Queer Money follow-up. Here is your Queer Money follow-up takeaway from this episode. Please download your free copy of the 5 Building Blocks of a Happy Gay Life at debtfreeguys.com/happy. And then, again, let us know in the Facebook, Facebook? In the comments below, regardless of what platform you're on, if you have a business and if your business is on social media. We would love to know what your business is and where you are on social media, so maybe we and our followers can follow you. Then join us tomorrow for episode 52, the 1-year anniversary of not the Queer Money follow-up series, but 52 days in a row of doing the follow-up series. When we're going to discuss 3 surprising stats about your LGBTQ financial experience. It was quite interesting to re-listen to that today and see what has changed and has not changed since about 5 years ago when we first recorded that. Then lastly and not leastly, please give this video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to this channel on YouTube and set notifications on this channel or whatever platform you're on. Engage with us so you don't miss future lives, because we think they're fun. We think hopefully they're helping you, and we would love to engage with you on whatever platform you're on. Thank you, and we will see you tomorrow.
Have a good evening.